He ran directly towards our vehicle and to where Officer Collins was at on the driver's side. I remember Officer Collins putting down his driver's window and saying something, asking what he was doing in the road, why he was in the road, and what he was doing. I noticed that the suspect, he was extremely sweaty. He seemed to be very kind of hyper-vigilant. He's talking quick, and he was just kind of, and he stated something to the effect of, I'm having a bad day, I need some help, and I have warrants. And it was very quick, he said that. Officer Collins actually said, well, we'll help you out. He told him to walk over to the sidewalk. I remember the suspect, he started to walk around the front of our vehicle, which was still facing westbound at the stoplight intersection. And instead of going to the sidewalk, he started to come directly to the passenger door where I was sitting. I started to put the window down, and I told to tell the suspect, hey, can you just go over to the sidewalk, we'll pull over, get out of traffic, and talk to you. At that point, he kind of seemed agitated. The window was probably about halfway down, and he just, still speaking very quickly, he said something to the effect that, I'm really hot, I just need some help, and I just got to sit down for a couple days. I need to cool down. And the window was being halfway down, and about that time, I don't know exactly why, he just looked at me from I was still seated in the passenger seat. He said something to the effect that, instead I might just punch you in the fucking face. As soon as he said that, I immediately started trying to roll the window up because I thought he was actually going to punch me through the window. I rolled the window up. As soon as the window was up, the suspect just reared back and he struck the window with a closed fist, probably 2, maybe 3 times as hard. It seemed like as hard as he could, like he was trying to break the window. I noticed he was about to try to reach for the door handle, and he actually started to reach for the door handle, and I reached as fast as I could and locked the door. Because if he would have I assumed he was trying to assault me at that point, and I knew that I could not defend myself from a seated position in the passenger seat. I recall Officer Collins getting out of the vehicle and going around the front of the vehicle and approaching the suspect. As he approached the suspect, I don't know exactly, I heard him say something to him. I'm not sure what he actually said to him. And the suspect kind of left, I guess, focused attention on me, and he turned towards Officer Collins kind of in a fighting stance with clenched fist and kind of squared up to him like he was about to fight him. As soon as I realized that he had focused on Officer Collins and was probably about to attack him or start fighting him, I used my door to actually door check him and hit him with the door to draw his attention away from Officer Collins and kind of divert him away from that. As I exit the vehicle, I realize I don't want to leave the door unlocked, the vehicle unlocked, because I know it's still running, it's unattended, we don't have the lights on, we haven't even had a chance to actually radio out that we're pulling over to assist this guy. So I turned and actually locked the doors and then shut the doors because I knew we had a rifle in there in the front, we had a rifle in the back along with other equipment, as well as the vehicle. Like I said, the vehicle was still running. I don't recall if Officer Collins and the suspect were already on the ground, or I know they were in some type of contact with each other, kind of wrestling around, and I don't recall if they were still up on their feet or if they were already on the ground. I tried to actually grab a hold of the suspect and kind of get a hold of him, but he was also kicking very wildly, flailing, and just swinging as hard as he could, it appeared like, with both fists and striking Officer Collins. When I was able to start delivering strikes to his body, it kind of appeared that he lost focus on Officer Collins and then focused in on me. This guy and it was odd because he seemed very, very strong, like he was basically able to actually push Officer Collins off of him. And this guy's just kind of screaming and growling. There's no verbal anything from the suspect at all at this point. At that point, it looked like he had kind of lost that focus on Officer Collins and then focused in on me and actually started to stand up and kind of just throw Officer Collins off of him. At that point, I decided I needed to probably try to disengage and open some distance between us so I could look at my next elective, because like I said, it didn't look like any type of pain compliance was working on him with the strikes. The suspect got to his feet and he focused in on me. I actually turned and ran. I would estimate probably 10 or 15 feet, maybe about a car length into the intersection. As soon as I got that distance, I turned and the suspect was actually sprinting at me and was almost on top of me. And I realized he was actually coming at me to attack me. He wasn't trying to evade me or evade us. He was coming directly at me, still screaming, still growling. As as soon as I saw this, I kind of tried to square up and also started swinging back, just kind of wild strikes, just basically trying to defend myself. He just kind of collided with me and we both came to the ground. Once I kind of regathered myself and picked myself up and realized what was going on, the suspect was on the ground on his back with Officer Collins pinning his upper body down and was delivering strikes with what looked like his closed right fist or a right elbow to the suspect's face. At that point, I tried to assist by pinning him down and grab at his legs and just kind of hold him in place. But he was, the suspect was also at the time also kicking at me and trying to kick me off of him. During this time we were on the ground, I consider this the second time we were on the ground with the suspect. I remember to the west of us, I could just hear someone, I'm not even sure who it was, I'm not sure it was a male or female, just like screaming somewhere from behind our vehicle. I don't know what that was about, I just recalled that someone was just screaming. He started to regain his footing, at which time Officer Collins looked like he was kind of got his back and was trying to put a lateral vascular neck restraint on the suspect. And the entire contact we've had with the suspect from outside the vehicle was immediately assaultive, and it appeared like it was continuing to be assaultive. So I felt like my next option was probably going to be my X26 Taser that I had issued. It looked like the suspect had kind of arched at one point and kind of presented like an open target away from hitting Officer Collins. And so I deployed the Taser, probably from about 2 to 3 feet, looking for that probe spread directly I was aimed directly, I would say, around the belly button of the suspect. As soon as I deployed the Taser, it was effective in stopping that assault and that kind of like that superhuman strength he felt like he had. He continued to yell, but it appeared like it kind of gave him that incapacitation to where he locked up. As soon as that 5-second cycle was over, it's like everything, that effectiveness completely went away, and he immediately went back to that kind of like that strength, and actually the suspect started to kind of stand up and actually kind of toss Officer Collins off of him, it looked like. As the suspect started to stand up, I delivered a second Taser, 5-second cycle with the Taser, the same cartridge, which again was effective in stopping him and locking him up, and Officer Collins kind of was able to put him back on the ground for a third time onto the suspect's stomach. The suspect is on the ground on his stomach. I am I'm on the right side of the suspect, trying to basically pull his arms out. The suspect's arms at this point are both kind of locked up under his body, with Officer Collins trying to control and take control of his left arm, and I'm trying to take control of the right arm. And I'm trying to also, at the same time, trap the suspect's legs with my legs, because he's still trying to stand up and kick and flow his legs. The suspect almost feels like he's almost doing push-ups with us on his back, and he's still at this point still growling, still yelling. There's been no change in that at all. I delivered what I believe was a third Taser cycle, 5 seconds, which again was effective in stopping that power and that strength and locking him up. But I was still unable to, during that 5 seconds, I wasn't able to actually control that right arm out from under his body, just because I only still had my left hand and was controlling my Taser with my right hand. I decided I'm going to try another cycle. I delivered, I believe, was a fourth 5-second cycle. And at that point, during that cycle, when I activated the cycle, I placed my Taser kind of down on the ground, out of his reach, out of the suspect's reach, but still within my reach, kind of like down by my right leg. During that 5-second cycle, we were able to actually pull the suspect's arms directly behind his back in the handcuffing position. And the suspect appeared to kind of give up the actual physical fight at that point, but he was still growling, kind of yelling incoherently, and kind of rocking his body around and kicking his feet. So after that, me and Officer Collins were able to get the suspect's hands behind his back and just kind of pin his hands down behind his back until we could get handcuffs on him. So after getting him finally in handcuffs, the suspect is still trying to roll and kind of buck Officer Collins and myself off of him, and we're just both basically just kind of laying on top of him, trying to pin him to the ground and keep him from flailing and kicking around. I remember at that point I was exhausted and just laying there. I was just trying to pin him because I could hear at this point, I could hear sirens coming. I don't recall who arrived first, but the first person I do remember seeing and acknowledging as arriving was my supervisor, Sergeant Mike Lim. He came from the west to east and stopped his patrol vehicle right in the intersection and ran over to us and actually grabbed the suspect's right arm. I believe he thought that we were still struggling to get him in handcuffs, but I remember telling Sergeant Lim, he's in custody, we got him in cuffs. And at that point, he had, kind of grabbed a hold of him. And several other people I noticed, it seemed like several officers just started to arrive around the same time. And I just kind of rolled off the suspect to kind of catch my breath. Somebody had asked about hobbles to restrain his feet. I knew that we were the closest vehicle right there, stopped at the stop bar. So I went to our vehicle and got, we have hobbles in our glove box of our patrol vehicle, and I retrieved the hobbles from our vehicle and came back to help restrain the suspect's feet. I do recall that Sergeant Lim was helping control the suspect's feet from kicking while I actually wrapped his ankles with the hobble, secured it, and then I secured it to the handcuffs that was behind his back to keep him from kicking. After the suspect was hobbled, he started to turn his head and try to spit at officers. And then someone had asked about a spit sock or a spit mask. I went to our vehicle and actually tried to locate one in our vehicle, but couldn't locate one. And someone else, I'm not certain who, someone else in another vehicle had and actually placed on the suspect, but I'm not sure who that was. I'm not sure what officers it was. I remember telling them to go ahead and roll him on it, since he was no longer fighting, to roll him onto his side, so he was no longer laying on his, like in a prone position. The officers actually rolled him to his right side, but they maintained, I'm not sure who it was again, they rolled him to his right side where the suspect was facing back to the east on his right side. Probably shortly after I had them, the assisting officers placed the suspect in that position on his side. I remember the fire department arrived and requested that the hobbles be removed and the handcuffs so they could start medical treatment. And I assisted by removing those hobbles.